Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call our October 4th, 2022 Harris County Board of Commissioners meeting to order, and Commissioner Andrews will lead us in our invocation this evening.
Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we come before you tonight. Lord, we have heavy hearts this week as we are grieving the loss of one of our great employees, Lord. We pray for his family. We pray, Lord, for his department and that they would be comforted by you. We pray, Lord, that you would take care of our employees, Lord, and we thank you for this beautiful county. We pray that your will be done tonight. In the name of Jesus, we pray. Amen.
Amen. We have a special young lady, Miss Lacey Fuson, who's going to lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance this evening, so if you please stand with us.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The first item on our agenda this evening is the approval of the minutes from our regular session of September 20th of 2022. Is there a motion?
I make a motion we approve the minutes of the regular session of September 20th, 2022.
All right, I will second that. Is there any further discussion? All right, and all those in favor? Motion carries. The next item on our agenda this evening is under appearance of citizens, and this is Miss Maria Copeland. Ms. Copeland, if you'll step forward to the podium. And I think they mentioned the 5-minute time frame.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the gap insurance, benefits were brought up by the county manager during the August 9th meeting. And I just want to suggest that before we take on any additional benefit administration, you please resolve the current benefit discrepancies that exist. Pamela Jackson's been working for the county for over 38 years. I used to come up to this courthouse when I was a kid with my parents and admire her. And I never knew her struggle. Over the years that she's worked here, Pam's been called all kind of racial slurs, degraded, oppressed, and made to feel like an imposter by many of the same people that work in this courthouse still today. And I'm only left to believe that some of the county workers in this courthouse wanted to push her out of her role in order to bring someone else in to fit a more homogeneous demographic that exists here. Pam is my hero because I don't think I have it in me to be so resilient, but somebody has to sit in the front of us like Rosa Parks did. Pam rises to the occasion every day she comes to this courthouse and work in a passive-aggressive and unwelcoming environment. I also realize that someone has to find the good trouble that John Lewis talked about, and that's where I come in. Harris County is where I was born, I was raised, and I love it. I came back here, I chose to come back here, I made it my home. I see myself going down a path with Pam because I feel like she's fighting for her civil rights, and I don't want to see her do it alone. So I've gathered a network of people from my undergrad and graduate years, and also my professional network of general counsel. They've never met Pam, never spoken to her, but they heard her cause and found it worthy of their time and resources. Her walk makes me think of where I would be if MLK decided to stand by the wayside and just watch the civil rights movement take place. I wouldn't likely be working for a top 4 firm worldwide. I wouldn't have the opportunity to teach technology and ethics at the university that I work for. And it's very unlikely that I would be allowed the opportunity to be standing before you today sharing my concerns about my fellow community member. What I want to see happen in this group of people is a group of people that accepted the job of serving and protecting the community, Board of Commissioners, county attorney and the manager, not here, but you all come together and do the math in order to restore to Pam the benefits that she's earned, because it's the right thing to do. The math is simple. After 15 years working, she would have maxed out the 1,440 hours that she's able to roll over each year. And that it rolls over year after that, like a savings account that doesn't draw interest until she starts consuming it. There's honor and integrity in doing the right thing because it's the right thing to do. And where there's honor and integrity, there's trust. There's a problem with trust in the community. I've reviewed the UDC document and found that it has a number of benefits for the community, but there's a lack of trust in the group presenting it. Therefore, a fierce opposition is met with it. Remediation can start now, tonight. Start rebuilding trust in the community by doing the right thing for the people that make up the community. There is, on the other hand, no trust and no honor in doing the right thing because of a legal mandate. You get 0 credit for doing the right thing because a governing authority has mandated it and offered up repercussions for non-compliance. Dr. Andrews, I've witnessed you in a meeting express empathy when you asked to amend the UDC to be inclusive of foster kids. Why can't you become the advocate for Pam in that same manner? Is it because her struggle has never and will never be applicable to your life's journey? Might I remind you of women's suffrage? I'd like to know from the county attorney who's absent today if her situation is irrelevant to his role to serve the community in the legal capacity. That's important for me. And the second question would have been to him, whose burden of proof is it to prove the consumption of the hours in question? According to payroll, they can provide her with the time of reporting back to the year 2000. She would have had to use over 84 sick days between then and now to even dip into her carryover reserve of 1,440 hours. Unless there's proof that she consumed the hours, we must go with the assumption she didn't, especially since her boss admits that she doesn't call in sick. By the way, I already know the answers to these questions that I'm posing here. I'm just on a mission to compare responses. Chairperson, Pam is a citizen in your district. Why am I watching you stand by the wayside speaking and not doing? In closing, I just want to say, do the right thing by your people. Do the right thing by all your people. Do the right thing, period. Thank you so much for hearing me. I sincerely believe that you've listened to my concerns, and I'm grateful. It's time to take action now. This has gone on far too long. Good evening.
Thank you. The next item on our agenda this evening is also under appearance of citizens, and we have Mr. Lester McMacken and Jim Call. I guess you two are aware of the 5-minute time period.
Yeah. I don't have a great plan here tonight. My name is Lester McMacken. I live at 150 Village Parkway. I think I've talked with you on the phone, Susan, a few times. Talked with Andrea. My home has a drainage problem in the yard. It's excessive in my opinion, and I've got photographs. I don't have them yet, unfortunately, so I can show them later. And through an investigation of that problem, my basic engineering knowledge and talking with the civil engineer, we've concluded that there is a restriction of the pipe going underneath my driveway and then subsequently going across the road of letting water out. And when I contacted the county to see if they could take care of the road, they informed me that the road is not a county road, the road is a private road. And then further investigations in the Deeds and Plats office and talking with you, Susan, and every other office that we have up here, the county is not claiming ownership of the road. I've gone back and contacted Mr. Britt Moon, and he's informed me that he says he does not own the road for debate. And it's kind of where we're at. Andrew's been a great help. Nancy was also a great help before giving me as much information as we can. But I guess, and then after talking with Andrea today, she's informed me that the Public Works Department is starting to look at the process of getting the road turned over, which I guess it wasn't. It's kind of it is new. I don't really quite understand what that is compared to what I was asking for earlier. But if that doesn't work out, I would be asking for the county. I think reading through notes, we found that there's a procedure that the county can foreclose upon the road, and this is based on like historical information that I've seen. I don't know if that is or is not true, but That would be my request. That is really all that I have here tonight, everyone.
Well, thank you, we'll keep looking into that.
Thank you.
The next item on our agenda this evening is also under appearance of citizens, and Stacy Baker is here this evening. Ms. Baker? No? Okay, if Ms. Baker is not here, then we will move on to the next item on our agenda this evening. The next item on our agenda this evening is a second reading of an alcohol application by Brent Smith. This is for a restaurant at 856052 Georgia Highway 85 in Ellerslie. The recommendation from the Sheriff's Office was approval. The recommendation from the Health Department was approval. The original recommendation from Community Development was disapproval, but Brian, I think you're here this evening. I think y'all have some issues that you've worked out that have been corrected.
Yes, on the original one that we returned, I actually have made a note at the bottom. Don't know why it's not there, but it said, disapproval pending that parking be put in place. Since then, I went by there today, the extra 6 parking spaces have been installed. She's cleaning, good.
Okay.
So that was all.
Okay, all right, so that would change all of our recommendations to approval. Ms. Smith, is there anything you'd like to add this evening?
No, I'm just hoping that we can get a process started to open it back and bring revenue back into the community and to bring jobs. I have people lined up. I'm just trying to get a little bit of normalcy for that side of town because I know that was a big staple and has been there for so many years, so we're just trying to get it back up and running.
Thank you. Is there a motion this evening? Okay. I will second that motion. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries. The next item on our agenda this evening is with TUSA and the 911 radio system supplement report. And I think TUSA has a representative here this evening.
Yes, sir.
Okay. If you want to step forward, I think we probably have a few questions for you this evening, and we do have one individual this evening, Mr. Dean Ginn, who signed up to speak on this. Mr. Ginn will get to you shortly in the process.
Hi, Dean Hart, the owner of TUSA Consulting. I'm glad to answer any questions this board may have.
Sure. I'm sure you got some questions you want to talk about this at least a bit.
Yeah, sorry. Sorry I wasn't here for the last meeting, the 20th and stuff with family that's I have to do every year, same time every year, so something we can't get out of. But with the little bit of my background, the reason why I'm going to ask some of these questions, I've been a network engineer for almost 20 years for a MSO that we go into, everything from the old, TDM, TDMA, going back to DWDM. I mean, it goes back to everything from not necessarily an RF perspective when it comes to radio system, but pretty much the same thing when it comes to timing and the way that these are deployed in backhaul services from. And also even into the surveys and documentation going into some of these sites, right, on co-location sites. There's several questions that I have in here, and instead of your recommendation, I want to go to the biggest elephant in the room first. Why did you guys, everything that I've read into your report in itself, nothing really substantiated why you guys are saying that the best radio system for us to go to for this topography is an 800 P25 system. I didn't see any supportive structure behind it on why you're pushing that. For one, the reason why I'm asking that is because with the current system we have, the TETRA system is relatively new to the U.S. and itself. It is a European standard, I get that. But the issue that I have with this is that, going back to when you see the first evolution of the TETRA system in the U.S. back in around 2008, 2009, you've got different metro systems that are sitting there using this. You've even got LAX that's using it, on their system, and there's a lot more ingestion into this. The P25 in itself is a standard, right? It's IOP, basically. It's interoperability between systems. It doesn't really matter what that configuration is, if it's 800, UHF, VHF, Tetra. So, there's no notation in here about what our current system is besides it being the Tetra system. And then on top of that, there's no guidance in here, one, what augmentation is to be able to get up to standard of what we need to cover the county. Two, there's no issuance of any kind of recommendation on what channelizations are going to be. How many extra channels are we going to need to be able to facilitate these tower placements for the existing Tetra system? And off of that, you're basing it off of an 800 megahertz P25 system that I'm just not understanding what that push is for that system. When honestly, just kind of looking over this from an engineering standpoint, there's no advantage over anything from a Tetra system to the 800 system to the UHF system besides really, the way that the frequency modulation is on some of this stuff, it attenuates faster. So you're going to need more sites. But it is an LTE-based, sort of based system that we have out here. So we utilize the existing structures that we have, i.e. water towers, depending on elevation with the topography that we have around here. So, there's a lot of things that I'm seeing in this report that was either one omitted or, you guys just kind of going back and staring and comparing it to, earlier report we had you guys do. There's a lot of stuff that just seems like it's repetitive. It's kind of I don't want to say copy and paste, but it really is. It's a lot of it. And even the site surveys really didn't change from a visual standpoint. So, I know I asked you a lot of questions and there's a lot of detail on this, and I'm really not trying to get into the weeds with everybody here, but it's a $32 million project that's been pitched at us from a county and a county perspective, and I'm a taxpayer too, and I'm trying to figure out why.
So, looking at the VHF spectrum as a starter, VHF is very noisy. I won't say it's an unregulated band, but it wasn't set up as a band such as UHF or 800 or even 700.
But it's still FCC compliance.
It is, but many times what we see is the noise floor is high due to uncontrolled things, dirty transformers, substations, USBs.
Ingress issues.
Yeah, and so by virtue FCC approves it, many times we see a transmit channel be put on somebody's receive channel because they're only tracking the transmit side of it, they're not tracking the receive. And so we see that causing issues. LED lights, fluorescent lights, all those things are interfering sources. And so we don't feel it's the best band for public safety. Now there is things within VHF, Part 22, Part 80s, but you gotta buy those that are clean channels because they were old paging channels that people bought, and a lot of people have bought them and used them, and those are good VHF. So that's why we consider the band that we did. When you're looking at sites, I know in our initial report, we offered some suggestions for additional sites to improve coverage based on the needs from the public safety users. Your system in the Tetra world is designed around a mobile type system where public safety is looking for in-building type penetration. VHF band's not the best for in-building penetration, where 800 meg is too, and that's why we go to that recommendation.
Now, don't local gateways take care of that? When I say local gateways, I'm talking about mobile gateways that you actually install in trucks. Now, their amplification system is one thing. The second part of this is when we're talking about modulation here, we're also talking about the handhelds are 1.6 watt. Most standard now today is going to be around 3 watt. You can't get 3 watt. I'm not going to say it's a standard. But you can do a 3 watt radio in itself. There's no mention in that either.
So, maybe sometimes we take that for granted. The VHF band, I can do 5 watts, 7, 800, I can do 3 watts. I'm not sure on the Tetra.
We're doing 1.6, I believe it's 1.6 today, but there are 3 watt available. So, that in itself helps with the broadcasting. Well, it helps with the transmitting, right? So, with that being said, and then with the gateway in itself, once that rolls up on site, that helps with the penetration of the buildings depending on structure type, right? We all know that.
So part of the penetration comes back into the talk-in side of it as well. So when I built it for a mobile system, I've spread my sites out because I've got anywhere from a 15 to 30 watt to a 50 watt mobile that I can talk into the tower, and the tower can talk back to the mobile. Now if I'm going to something less, I can still hear dispatch, but now I only got 1.6 watts to try to talk back into that tower. So typically in VHF, we're not seeing tower top amps that help balance that talk-in coverage on the inbound side. where you do see it in UHF and 7800, because that helps balance that more to a portable-based system than a mobile-based system.
Now, you're basing this on tower placement though, because just as well as I do, the way that the operational or operability of any system depends on how that is actually modified. And saying, the more locations I have that has either repeaters or has a base station, has whatever into it, the better your reception is going to be regardless of what system you're using. So going into this, I mean, I think on here, you guys, what did you guys recommend? Actually, 11 sites? I think it was 11 sites that you guys put on?
I don't have the report in front of me, but I know it was a pretty significant site count.
Right.
And that was mainly to take care of the terrain side of it as well.
But that didn't take into consideration any site that the county had existing that we could utilize as far as height-wise, right? When it comes to elevation, even if we sit there and put a mast up, let's say, for instance, a tower, one of our water towers at one of our, tallest points, that would save us from having about $300,000, $500,000 site for a tower, depending on that power, tower, backhaul in itself, depending on what you're going to use for your backhaul. It's just, a lot of things that, from this county, respectively, that's half our budget. That's half of our yearly budget as it sits today. That's even the capital projects. So asking for something like this, I can understand if there was no augmentation process, that there was no path forward, or there was no hybrid system out there, which we know Tetra can be a hybrid system as well. So you can utilize
I
VHF.
respectfully disagree with that.
Well, you can. You can use VHF with the Tetra mobilization. In fact, there's a radio, in fact, I can't remember what the exactly model number of the radio, but I found a model of the radio for the hybrid system. But the thing of it is there's a lot of aspects there that just seems to go, okay, we're going to scrap what we have, all the money we've put into it, and all the existing user, let's say, tribal knowledge of the existing, platform, to move into a known system or a system that we had merged away from, let me say that, to a radio base in itself that is 2.5, 3 times the cost of the radios that we're utilizing today.
Sure.
So, there's a lot of factors into this that, I just wasn't convinced just looking at your report. Your report just said, okay, there's this issue, A through Z, but there was no supportive evidence of why we needed to move from this instead of an augmentation of the existing system.
So most of that was based on user needs and portable in-building coverage. So that's what's really driving the solution more than anything.
So where did the user needs come from?
We interviewed the users from their police and fire.
Who were they?
I don't have that information in front of me, Commissioner. I can't speak to that. But when we come in and do a normal, what we call phase 1 needs assessment, part of that is putting out a survey that goes out to the public safety users. So that usually starts at the higher executive level of the chiefs, how they filter it down to their own staff. We leave that up to them. And there's a series of questions that we ask them, and there's where we base a lot of our opinions on. And a lot of that opinion is based around in-building coverage or lack of coverage. And designed to a portable on the hip with a speaker mic, ways that you typically see a public safety official carrying a radio today.
Right, but there's a lot of solutions out there besides just putting out more an 800 megahertz system, more towers. There's mobile units that you can possibly use. I mean, there's a plethora. I won't get into detail of it, ad nauseam on it. But the thing of it is, to me, is the first step in trying to figure out in the networking itself. And I deal with a lot of end-of-life technologies that are sitting out there in the network itself. We build, we're doing over 800 gig transference today with our transceivers. Going back to this type of technology, that what you're saying basically is you're calling it basically an end-of-life system because we need to move away from it. That's how I'm taking this. This is a system where you're telling us to move to an 800 megahertz system, P25 system. You're telling us to move, so you're telling me this is end-of-life.
No, I'm saying it's not a standard in the U.S. for public safety, and it's not providing the needs as expressed by our public safety.
Okay, is 800 megahertz a standard?
In P25, you said it earlier, P25 can be done in multiple
P25
bands.
standardization is for each different modulation scheme. It's totally different. That's the standardization that is interoperability. To this point of this, what I'm saying is, with the Tetra system in itself, the first thing that you do in any new technology or any advancement or augmentation to it, you figure out what your expansion capabilities are. You figure out what that cost is. You figure out if that's even a path that you want to decide you want to get down.
I'm pretty sure we did that in the 2017 report, where we sit there and offered up to expand the Tetra system.
To more towers. And you're coming in with this, pretty much the same report, saying you just need to go ahead and move to the 800 system. That's a big swing in your opinion.
It is because it was direction from the county that Tetra was not the continued path, and especially leasing Tetra. And not owning your own system and having the capabilities to manage and maintain your own system was not favorable as well.
Oh, I'm glad you said that too, because honestly, with all the new towers and everything else that we're going to need, regardless of whichever path we go, I don't think we have enough information to figure out exactly which system we do need to go. Because one, we don't even know if there's channels out there to be able to augment the current system that we have today. We don't.
VHF side would be extremely difficult to find more channels.
Well, you're just saying, are you saying that because the FCC pulled back from the low-end channelization?
No, the band is full, the band's being used.
But do we know this?
I can easily make a phone call and give you that
That's what I'm
information.
saying, but we don't know for sure if there's channels out there left or not. And
My-
if there is,
My experience says there's not, Commissioner.
but if there is, we need to know that's a guarantee that there isn't.
I'll gladly provide that to you guys.
And then two, if it's not, then we can talk about other route. That's
I
my whole
can-
thing.
I can easily-
Pushing that 800, pushing a totally different system at $30-something million, there was no supporting evidence behind that, to me. Anybody else?
Any other questions?
Well, I tabled this so that you could be here, but I knew you had your opinion, you had questions. And I will say that I'm glad I did that. I have absolutely no idea what you just said. And I'm sure nobody out here other than the people that use their radio do. But that is why I made sure I tabled it, because, you know, I needed somebody to ask those questions that have a little bit more expertise in this situation I do, so I appreciate you doing that. And I will go back to what the sheriff said. You know, the sheriff, he gave us that sheet last time, and said that the sheriff's office has the most calls, and he thinks that we don't need to go with spending $32 million on this. We need to figure out a different way. And I know I've talked to some of the EMS and some of the volunteer fire departments. I think we're probably at the infancy stage of trying to make a decision. I don't know if we have enough information yet to make a decision on this one way or the other. That's my opinion. I think we need a little bit more information, or at least I feel I do, before I can spend $32 million. And that doesn't mean I don't think we need it, because as y'all know, my son is a deputy sheriff here, so I do know we have radio, sometimes that there's some issues, but I think that there might be a way we can fix it, hopefully without having to spend $32 million.
We're going to revisit this in just a minute. We've got a public hearing, it's got to start at 7, so we're going to get ready for that.
You bet.
The next item on our agenda this evening is a public hearing that we're about to get started on. And this public hearing, the applicant is Tower Rock Raceway LLC, and the location is adjacent to 2312 D Street in Pine Mountain Valley. They would like to rezone 3.98 acres of a 8.48 acre parcel, 071A parcel part of 016, land lot 216 in land district 21. They would like to rezone from A1 agricultural forestry to M1 light manufacturing. Present use is A1 is wooded, and the proposed use would be M1 storage and parking lot. Planning Commission recommendation was approval, and the staff recommendation was also approval. Mr. Carlisle, is there anything else you'd like to add to this this evening?
No, unless you have any questions about the plats or anything.
Does anybody from the board have any questions?
There's a letter here from Roosevelt Memorial Children.
That's right, that's who sold the property to, they actually sold the property.
But there's something about a fence.
They gave me an exception for a 0 lot line in a portion that I'm gonna build a fence when we're done. It's just a continuation of the fence that's already there. There's already a fence all the way down the south side.
We don't need to make that a restriction.
No.
You'll take care of it.
Yes,
That's all we know.
yes, that was an agreement in my sales contract.
All right, that's all we know. Thank you.
Are there any other questions this evening? No? Okay. I'm gonna recuse myself from this vote just because I've no chance, I've done some work for Chance in the past, and I don't want to be interpreted that, just in the wrong direction. So, with that being said, is there a motion?
I make the motion, we approve.
Is there anyone let somebody speak for or against?
I guess we will. Is there anyone here this evening who would like to speak in opposition or in favor of that? No?
Seeing none, I make a motion that we approve, this applicant for the, for the rezoning, thank you. I was on the wrong page, I couldn't see what it was.
We have a motion, is there a second? No motion and a second, all those in favor? Motion carries.
Thank you, have a good night.
Two. All right, in closing that, we will return to our, the sixth item on our agenda, which was dealing with TUSA. Was there any more questions from the board? Okay. I don't think we've got any more questions for you. Okay. Mr. Yen also signed up to speak on this evening, but if you have some comments to make first.
My only comment is that, in both the TUSA report and the previous conversations that we've had, both say we need additional towers. So I think it would be prudent for us to have a plan developed for where those might be, where the current height and water towers or whatever buildings or anything that we can add transmitters on, and I don't know anything I'm talking about. I'm just saying that between today and the time that Diverse Power says we're through with y'all, or the radios crash completely, we need to be doing something proactive. So if the common solution to both of our situations is additional towers, I think we should begin investing in that, finding out where those might be, go ahead and start building those. However, if we built 5, we're 5 closer than we are today. And I think that that's common, and those of you who know Dean and the gentleman that just spoke, tell me if I'm right or wrong about that.
Absolutely.
I'll make some comments. I totally agree that we definitely need more towers. Problem that I have is we don't know where that placement's going to be. That's going to be really predicated on what kind of wattage those repeaters are going to be, where the locations are placed, because they can play a huge role in where those towers are placed, what technology we're going to go with. There's a lot of questions there. 100% we need more towers. We knew that from going back to the original, implementation of the system, that we needed more towers for, serviceability. We do need to have more exploratory conversations into this when it comes to where those placements are going to be, where we can put those placements if those towers are sufficient, where, that we have water towers, we have county resources already available to cut down on the expense. There's a lot of caveats to that. We do need to figure that out from the tower state, but I do want to put in there and make this public too, that anything that we do from a county's perspective that has this much liability, we need to own it. The county needs to own, maintain, and operate these towers. Support in itself and the support structure itself, we can always get a support structure, support contract with any of it, whether it be, Dean's two-way, whether it be anyone, regardless of what technology we decide to go with. So that's something I feel very adamant about, that we need to own our own system.
Well, I think that we could at least say we're going to invest in this many and begin looking at how we would finance that.
Right.
So that we begin developing the infrastructure for whatever's coming down the road.
Right.
Whatever we need to improve.
Right, and I'm sorry.
Just to make us more prepared than we are today. Today, I think we're very much unprepared for what the future holds. And frankly, I'm tired of hearing radios don't work, radios don't work. We've heard it. You said
12 years?
12 years you've heard the radios don't work, the radios don't work. We know that in buildings it's worse. I don't know anything about it, although I know the end users continue to say that. And I know how important public safety is to every citizen in this county. And, you know, the amount of money that it would take to do a brand new, if we went with Tusa's recommendation and did that, that doesn't scare me to invest that kind of money in public safety over a 20-year period when we have a low debt ceiling. I'm not afraid of that amount. I certainly don't want to spend that much money frivolously or in a way that we don't need to spend it. But I'm prepared to vote to do whatever it takes to get us where we need to be. It just really, and I said this to someone earlier, if we had a tragedy in this county and the investigation afterwards led back to the fact that we had a terrible or poorly designed, poorly working radio system, the citizens would never forgive us, and they shouldn't. And so we've got to solve this problem, whether we start with determining how many towers we need and begin figuring out financing of that and working toward progress toward solving this problem. Whatever it takes, I think it just behooves us to begin that process.
I'd like to hear from Mr. Gann.
I did have one other thing, you come on up, Mr. Mayor. And with the towers and with the system in itself, what I do want to caution on is this is something that we should have explored year over year. I think as a project in itself, if I had it to do over again, it definitely would have been something we would have looked at, year over year, every budget cycle to look to see how we can incorporate this, because it costs. Anything that's a technology-based project is astronomical. Just just going back to, let's just say, for instance, like logistics, trying to get materials, trying to get silicon, which is going to be your chipsets and everything else, from anything. Even, I don't care if it's one of my, $1 million routers or if it's, a handheld at $1,700-1,800. All this stuff is, I hate to say it, but it's like finding, it's hard to come by. So, whatever we do, I do say we take our time, we take our due diligence to be able to vet every possibility, every avenue out, and plan this to where we can implement this in its totality, not just to patch.
Mr. Gann.
Okay, I'm Dean Gann, Dean's Commercial Two-Way. I appreciate what Susan's saying. We're back in front of you guys, fast forwarding from 2012. When we entered into this project with Diverse Power as a partner with Dean's Commercial Two-Way and Diverse Power. Yes, it was built as a mobile system. The caveat was, we outlined, you needed more sites to get portable coverage. The county purchased 2 sites, Northwest Harris and Pine Mountain. We brought in the Overton site, Hamilton site, and Phoenix City site in order to get you the coverage you needed to operate from the get-go. Since then, the county has added 2 sites, Antioch and the Weber Hall site, which improved the portable coverage drastically. So we still stand behind our initial design and request that the county needed to own more sites in the county. And we have come before you guys in the previous years with that in mind. That it's working, yes, we don't have all the coverage we need, but we don't have the budget we need to push it. So we've been reactive rather than proactive. The county, in my opinion, we need at least 5 more sites, which is what I'm suggesting to you guys around the county to enhance the portable coverage. Those 5 sites can be sites that can be picked out. You know the territories they need to be in, which will be a commonality between the Tetra use today, getting it up, putting the sites in, addressing the holes in the coverage if you will. The county will have ownership of those sites. They will be available should you use 800 down the road or any other technology. But I can assure you, the Tetra system is strong, it works, it's efficient, Diverse Power is deeply invested into this, as the county, as we are. There's currently 5 of the EMCs around the state. There's 51 sites in this project. They are committed to this long term. It was the right technology then, it's the right technology now. So having said that, we'd like to see the county put the skid brakes on trying to bail and jump to something else right now. The thing that needs to happen immediately is provision or okay, the ability for us to go out and research channel capability. We should have done this to channels. You have to get the FCC channels for additional sites. So based on 5 sites, you're looking at an overall cost, $6,000 to do a search for the 5 sites. That's non-refundable, but if they find the channels, then that can be allocated into, the initial cost is around $21,000 to have channels allocated in license. So you're looking at about $6,000 up front for the county to go out. Let's get around the table, agree on where you want to put these sites, run the RF design, do our engineering, come back. We see where we're at. We get channels, we can start budgeting some numbers or security numbers for you. It'll be a much cheaper solution than what you're looking to go to and abandon what we have. It would be, in my opinion, the right move. Then we can assess where we want to be moving forward. I'll be happy to answer any questions you've got. That's pretty much where we.
Dean, if you go out and try to find those channels and we can't find any, what do we do then? Or do you think that that's not, there's no guarantee, but.
We've been successful. There's no guarantee out there, but we've been successful all around the state getting channels. I don't think it's going to be an issue, but we have to start that process. And then we can get a baseline of what we can and cannot get. But we need to be around the table and be proactive on how you want to move forward with this project.
What is that process?
As far as getting channels, basically once I identify a geographical area that the tower will reside on, then I get a FCC coordinator to look at it, find out what users around, what channels are available, and they understand what we're using it into our account, because we're pretty much just trying to stay within county territory. So don't think it's going to be an issue, but it is a process. It takes typically 3 or 4 months for us to get the coordinations done and get an answer back as to where we're at. And then they'll say, yes, I've got X amount of channels. We can move forward if you like. And from an equipment aspect, as with everything else right now, delivery with any manufacturer is delayed. You're looking at 6 to 8 months typically on any equipment that's ordered right now from a manufacturing aspect. The thing we've got to get more proactive on is we need spare parts, stuff that we've come to you in the past and said, okay, this is what we feel like is needed. I know there was a couple of base stations that got approved in the budget for last year, and I think we've sort of been held up, hinging on which direction you're going. I highly suggest those get moved, because regardless of what you do, you're 2 to 3 years out. There's a lot of process that has to go. If you're going to do a tower site, you got 6 to 8 months of due diligence work before you even think about breaking ground. So, there again, from a time aspect, the more we can get moving, the better off we're all going to be.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Dean, and I may be, but I thought back when I was sworn in as commissioner, at some point within those first few months, that I saw a map where you had suggested that these 5 sites that we might need to go to, and then we did get 2. I know we've done 2, but I thought we had done that, or you had done that, and I might be wrong, but I just could have sworn that I saw a map that showed that these are sites we need to put to help. Am I just making that up? Or?
No, you're correct. We made recommendations, and we did RH studies based on that. 2 of the sites were the areas we come to with a facility at behind J&J in Catawba, which would address the problematic low-lying areas of Coca Lake and West Pond Acre, Fortson Road. Other sites in the Washington Road area in the valley would have addressed Shiloh, Waverly Hall, and Pine Mountain Valley. So yes, we've got the documentation on where we had generalized areas allocated or proposed. But like I said, we just need to be more proactive on where you want to be, how you want to move forward. And I think we are making a recommendation that we put in a paging system for the volunteers. You'll never get in-building coverage in this entire county. The topology is horrendous at best. But the cost is much cheaper So there again, we can sit around the table and bring solutions in, but I think we've got a path on, if you added 5 sites, you put in paging and have a way to alert your firemen, these issues would be resolved. We would be moving forward. And as I said, the technology's not going anywhere. The power utility companies are behind this. It's current, and they're going to keep it up on their side of it, and we keep up our side of it. So it's partnership.
So a question that I have though, the biggest outlier to any kind of a network supporting stuff in the day 2 support, right? Get that put in and everything else, you find everybody's dime a dozen engineers to do that. Support structure in itself, what kind of support structure is sitting out there for the TETRA system, and it's the way that it's supported today, of course, is by Dean's two-way, right?
We support the sites that are within Harris County ourselves. We also help support the sites outside of the area. We have, Power Truck, which is a manufacturer, has an engineering group that's dedicated to support here in the U.S. They're out of New Jersey. Phone call away. A lot of this is done remotely, all the updates, software upgrades, all of this is done. We provide the reports to the county annually. So there's a mechanism in place and supports there.
So what I'm saying, if Dean's two-way for some reason decided it's not there tomorrow, doors are closed, there's no support for that standpoint. That support structure comes from the trunk.
Well, Power Trunk, the manufacturer, they get field reps they can send out. So there again, they do that for the bigger companies. Service contracts are local.
So is there anybody else locally, since the EMCs did that, or is Power Trunk really the main go-to to that?
Pretty much we're relying on, it's a very low maintenance. In the 10 years we've had out there, I think we've had a couple of base stations get hit by lightning. Harris County had to have one of those. It's a very durable and redundant system. It stays and runs. Most of the utility companies, we have a first station line program where they can support the first station line piece. If you need Power Trunk or whoever to come in or remote in, they're there 24/7. They have a 24/7 support system at their main office in Saragossa, Spain. Anytime we need them, they're there. It's part of the system.
So going back to the radios, the handhelds in itself, what we're operating today is 1.6 watt system for handhelds. So, correct me if I'm wrong again, I'm just trying to stay in the same thought process. Going to the 3 watt handhelds, which basically you're doubling your power, close to, not quite. But you're going to 3 watt handheld in itself, which gives you a little bit better transmit on that. And once you're looking at these, and the cost is negligible between the 1.6 and 3 watt, from what I understand. So isn't it something that today we can go to? Doesn't change budget, doesn't change any impact. It's still pretty much the same cost for the radio, but actually gives them a little bit better TX on those.
Absolutely. I mean, your uplink, when you're talking out to the site, is a critical piece there. They are replacing the 1.6 watt with the 3 watts. And any orders that go in now are immediately out of the box, a 1.6 with the software can be upgraded to the 3 watt. So that's the way support is handling that. So yes, any purchases moving forward, and I think there may have been a few dollars, maybe $100 or more difference in the price structure on that. But generally, if you want to order it's 1.6, you can. Otherwise, you order with the software and you're at 3 watts.
And another biggest issue that I have really is being able to patch through between Columbus, let's just say Muscogee County, Stall Trick County, Stall by GSPs, everything else. All that has to be in a factor where it's seamless. It's something that, there's a lot of issues with that, right? That's licensing, that's a lot of different things, right? So there's a lot of coordination.
It's more coordination than anything else. The ability with our consoles now is we can put an interop radio for any of the other legacy systems at the console level. A user agreement needs to be approved with the City of Columbus and purchase radio in their system. You can't tie it into the console now with the hardware that's in there as it is today. Same with Tripp County. When we put the consoles in, Tripp County was having a capacity issue. They were not allowing any IDs on their network. So this reason it couldn't be done at that time. I had a conversation with Monty today. Basically, if he gets a user agreement in place with the counties around us that he wants, such as VHF or Tripp County, Talbot County, Meriwether County, 800 for the city of West Point. They went to a single site, 800 site. We can put all that in the console. You're talking about radio gateway, we've already installed it. So we're talking about some agreements in place for OCT radios, and that can happen.
But they have to agree.
They have to agree.
To allow it.
You're putting a radio in there, you're exposing that talk group to traffic outside, so there has to be a user agreement.
So they may not.
Possibly not. It's up to the city to approve that, so that's where the sheriff and the EMA has to basically request. You typically will happen, but I can't do that. It's a user agreement.
When you say troop county, does that also, that means the state patrol that's stationed there?
Let's talk
Or is that a different
All right,
thing?
let's talk about state patrols. It was led to believe when the report was there that you lost capability towards state patrol. You have never had the ability to talk to GSP. At any time, there used to be a car-to-car frequency that was out there for the sheriffs back in the VHF days. State patrol was on a closed P25 system. Their dispatchers talk to their radios, or in any other county, calls their dispatchers and talks to them. We have, I say we, Dean's Commercial 2A, has donated 7 radios to GSP for the units and the troops that are in our area, for the range troops. So that's how they talk to us, because we loan them a radio to talk to us. We'll never be able to dispatch from our consoles to GSP. It won't happen. Towards state patrol won't allow. So that was a little bit pitched out there, but it's not true.
So devil's advocate, let's play worst case scenario. Let's say, for instance, we sit here and do exploratory on the frequencies in itself. We come back, there's no channelization on their left for us, right? We're dead in water. So there's no expansion. What that means is that we cannot put new towers on there and put that system in place as it sits today. To be able to expand the channel base.
It's possible.
Let's just say it's worst case scenario. To be able to do a hybridization of the existing Tetra to, let's say, we bring in 800 systems for the expansion on this side.
That would be
Or
something.
let's not say 800, let's just say another tech.
I think you need to be on one system or the other as far as, yes, it could be a migration path with patches between legacies. And I think where you're going with this is if you move to an 800 and start facilitating and having patched over, very possible. We'd have to sit down and do a design and talk about it. I think from a public safety, I'd like to see us all basically dispatching in the core system. Like I said, we are making the recommendation to alert your firemen separately, because you can put enough transmitters around the county that you can broadcast out so a pager can hear. That's easily done. It's basically listening. Whereas when you go to a P25 system or any other system, such as Tetra, you've got to stay connected in and out. And stuff.
You just got to keep alive to it.
Just stay on. And that builds with your coverage. So to address some of the building, in-building coverage issues, that can be either placement of towers or using VGAs, and either of the technologies. So there again, we've got to get proactive. I think we're looking at a much cheaper solution to finish what we started. Have ownership in your towers. I absolutely have no problem with that. I'd like to see the county do it. But we got to get around the table and talk about it and see how to move forward. First step is getting the chance. See where we're at. Then we can make some decisions from a taxpayer's aspect, makes sense for everybody.
Any other questions, Commissioner? Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Any other comments or questions from the board? No?
I do think that we need to bring this up. I don't know if it needs to be, I don't know what the process is for it, but for us to be able to explore, I think we need to explore all of our options. We need to definitely sit there and look at the system that we have today. We need to understand where we can go. Is it possible to expand it? Are there channels out there? I mean, to me, there's no way we can make a decision, especially on a $30 million project, without understanding every caveat that's needed. We've got to know everything. Tower placement, 100% we've got the towers out there. We've got to have the coverage. That's regardless of what tech we decide to go with. But I think what we need to do is we need to come up with something or a way that to be able to do the exploratory on from FCC, to be able to figure out if those channels are still there or are available to us or not. That's going to be a cost. So I think that needs to be brought up at our next planning session to be able to discuss that and be able to decide whether, to move forward with that.
Well, I'll say this, I believe, and I could be wrong, I believe that, Bobby, when we started talking about this months ago when we got here, you made a motion for us to do this study because we didn't know. We needed to know, and I think I seconded it. So I don't think this was money, was, bad spent, because we didn't know. We needed to get where we are. I agree with you, but I'm not sure we need to wait till a work session, because I think that's what we've done in the past, and I say we, because I am a county commissioner now. It may have been we pushed it down the road. I don't know if waiting till a work session, because I think the next work session is December. Is that right?
We can call one sooner.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. We may need to do one earlier so we can discuss this and try to get ahead of this instead of pushing it down the road even further. Because I do agree with Susan, we have to do something. We know that there are tower sites from both sides. We need to figure it out, and we need to go do it, and we need to be proactive, and we need to make a decision and say, this is what we're gonna do, and move the county forward. Because right now, we know we have some issues. We need to move us forward to help with those issues.
I agree. So we need to decide on what date we can push up to go ahead and have a retreat or have a planning session that we can go ahead and push up. That's within the next 2 weeks.
So what do we need to know
We
in
need-
that session?
we
What
need to
the steps
understand.
are, step 1, step 2, step 3?
You need to process,
And cost for those.
Yes, the process, the application process, and also the cost to that application.
Commissioners, if I may, I've already reached out to a spectrum firm that we do this with and having them run Harris County to see what VHF spectrum is available, and I will provide that information to you.
Thank you.
So our last meeting, we tabled the decision until tonight, and I think we'd have to make a motion regarding the RFP for this. Is that the original?
I don't think we need, my opinion is, I don't understand how we can move forward with RFP when we don't have all the information gathered. The site locations, 100% agree with Commissioner Andrews that we have got to put this on the board for us to be able to do it. It doesn't need to go away. It needs to stay on the table. It needs to be something that we push for. Because it's all of our citizens, every one of our neighbors that rely on this. We rely on this, and so happens to us. So, and it's something that, each one of our first responders, they rely on, on the job day to day. They've got to have communication. I don't want to see them in a bad situation. So we need to put this on the table. We do need to move forward. We need to move forward as soon as possible. But we need to have all the information together before I can ask for a price on it.
That is on this current system that we have to see what we can do.
First, we do need, right, because to me, it doesn't make sense to excavate something if we have augmentation available to us. And if it's something that, let me say, our fire department, our EMS, our sheriff's department, anybody that relies on this communication, they need to have buy-in on it. So it doesn't need to be us 5. It needs to be who utilize this system on a daily basis.
I would think that whoever it is to get us the information on where the tower should be located could do that with them.
I don't know that they would have the expertise with that. I agree they need some input. But, as far as tonight, we would just not act on this item. And, if we're not ready to do an RFP, we just let this get. Pardon me?
You're not required to act on it.
Yeah,
There's
no motion.
No motion either.
But I think we do need to make sure Randy has direction on what we want. We want steps. You articulated, Bobby, what do we need next?
Well, the process is going to be we're going to have to do an SEC application, right, for channelizations. What is out there? Are there channels for us to acquire for expansion?
Is that what you just said?
He said that I guess you've already acquired into something.
We're gonna look and see if there is spectrum available, and we'll report that back to you.
All right, can I clarify something? It sounds like are you checking on VHF spectrum or are you checking on UHF?
I'll check on both.
I heard you say VHF, just clarification I need.
Okay.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Our system's in UHF, so what he's checking on is not relevant to expanding our
Then
system.
I'll check on the UHF as well.
Okay, and that's fine, I just want to clarify, we're operating on UHF 450-47.
What is your contract?
They're running the reports as we speak, so give me a week.
So we definitely wait.
Well, perhaps, Bobby, you get with Randy and make sure that he knows, he can communicate what we need.
I can push an email out that includes all of us on it, and we're all understanding what's going on.
Sounds good.
Would you like to bring it back for next meeting as well?
Yeah, we can, because if it's only gonna take about a week, I say a week, 10 days, we should have our answer back from the channelization, what's available out there.
Well, if you're gonna do that, and you're looking at, the first meeting will be November 1st, so that'd give you, we'd have to have a meeting sometime in between, within the next 2 weeks, which, you know, as some of us still work and some of us have things going on, that might be the hard part. So you may want to say, try to bring it back on the 15th, which would be that second meeting in November. That gives us a little bit more time to at least make sure that we can meet.
We could get the information back on the.
The information don't come back regardless.
Yeah, I mean, we gotta have that, but I'm talking about the meeting,
So for the next meeting, the regular meeting on the 18th?
Yeah, I would
Tuesday?
think.
The 18th,
Okay.
that's fine.
I'm just trying to give us some, you know, at least a cushion, because we do know, you know, it gets busy around this time of year.
That's fine.
I don't wanna push it out too far, because I think we need to make a move.
Right. I agree, we can put it to the 18th.
Okay. All right, so we'll revisit that on the 18th. Any other comments, questions? If not, we'll move on to the next item.
Sir, real quick, would the board have any issue with us participating in that? I'm not charging you to be here tonight, so I'm not gonna charge you for that as well.
I would say we don't have any issues with that.
I would think you know, the more information we can get from both systems, both parts, you know, the better decision we can make.
We try to come independent, we're not selling any radios, we're not selling anything, so we're giving you hopefully an independent opinion.
Yeah, I don't have a problem.
Thank you.
Unless anybody else.
No, I'm not sure. No, no. Okay. All right, thank you. All right, so moving on to the next item on our agenda this evening, this is our financial statement from July 2022 and August of 2022. Mr. Chastain, do you have any interesting information for us you'd like to share with us this evening?
Well, to begin, the financial statements, I gave you two parts this time, because in closing out fiscal year 22, it kind of puts me a little bit behind the 8 ball. That set you guys up with both July and August, so that we're back on track. September's will be coming when we have time for bank recons and closing that out. It's a little earlier in the year to be, I think I told you last time, our interest numbers are really look good. It's even in the first month to see that we're going in. Hard to tell on some other things. Inflation still out there. We're going to see in a minute. We've got two budget amendments that we're looking at having to make already. Hopefully we can keep those to a minimum. But other than that, it's a little early to tell where we stand up. Okay, right now, everything's good.
All right. Any questions for Mr. Chastain? No? Is there a motion?
I make a motion we approve the July and August 2022 financial statements.
I'll second that motion. Motion and a second. All those in favor? Motion carries. The next item on our agenda this evening is a bid award for the dehumidification system at the community center. Ms. Marston, I noticed you're here this evening. I'm going to run through this real quick. We might have a question or two for you, but during the fiscal year of 2022 and 23, was approved for the community center budget. It contains $500,000 to replace the aging dehumidification system that is at the end of its useful life. The project was designed and competitively bid out on the bid deadline of September 22nd of 2022. 4 bids were received, and they are as follows. J.M. Clayton came in with a total bid of $722,000. Max Air Mechanical came in at $755,000 and some change. Holbrook Services came in at $820,000. And Powers Heating and Air came in at $843,264. The low bidder, J.M. Clayton from Thomasville, Georgia, with a total bid of $722,000. This project is $222,000 over budget. The additional funds would need to come from the general fund reserve. If approved, this project can be completed during the summer of 2023. During this replacement process, the swimming pool will have to be closed for about 60 days. During closure, other necessary swimming pool repairs will be completed. Once completed, the new dehumidification system will have a useful life of about 15 years if properly maintained. Are there any questions from the board this evening?
Is the 300 days to complete because of not being able to get the parts?
That is correct.
So we're not gonna close the pool down until everything's here, and then we're gonna have 60 days.
Any other questions?
When we close the pool, because I know we're over budget, I'm gonna assume at that time we're not gonna be paying lifeguards. I mean, I'm not saying it's gonna be a wash, but on one hand, we're taking a little bit of money that we're putting back into the pool.
Any other questions from you? Comments? None. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion that, we purchase a dehumidifier, because I have been in the community center multiple times, and that pool gets used a whole lot. And I know that our facilities, management director has worked on this pool, for a lot of times, and I know this is something we need. So I make that motion that, we give it to J.M. Clayton for the total bid of $722,000.
Okay, we have a motion, is there a second?
And the budget amendment.
And the budget amendment.
Okay. A motion, is there a second? Okay, all right, the motion is a second, all those in favor? Motion carries. Takes us to our next item on the agenda this evening is a budget amendment for an emergency generator for the jail. The emergency generator at the jail is no longer working at the end of its useful life. It needs to be replaced. The budget amendment is needed in the amount of $80,000 to purchase a new generator along with installation. Funds for this project were not budgeted but will come from the general fund reserves. If the budget amendment is approved, the generator will be ordered and is scheduled to be delivered during June of 2023. Are any questions or comments from the board?
Are we sure that we will be able to get this generator by June of 2023? Because I know that there's, back orders on a lot of equipment and stuff.
Yes, sir. I kind of got a little packet I can give you. I got a quote in today for the generator. I have not received the other two yet, but this one did come in. Also attached to the top is a letter from Alexander stating the generator parts is obsolete and is no longer available. I'll give you a copy in 2 minutes. The problem is it is a 30-year-old unit. The part that we need for the unit to continue to run is obsolete. We've looked for other generic parts for it, and as of this time, we cannot find any. So we have a generator at the jail that is non-operational. Just right now, I got it kind of rigged up with the Band-Aids and stuff. Yeah, but I have to manually control the generator to cut it off and all that kind of stuff. Yes. So once it starts running, it won't cut off by itself.
So this quote on the last page is what you got today?
Yes, ma'am, and I know we asked for the budget amendment of $80,000, but the cost on this right here is $82,315. So it's going to be a little bit more than $80,000. $80,000 was sufficient for 911. Theirs was, they only had 20 feet to run electrical stuff at the jail.
we have to run like 100 and something feet of electrical, and you know the price of stuff is going outrageous right now. So that's why there's that big of a difference in between what we got for 911 and what we got to get for the jail.
And Clint, I know it said we can take this out of the general fund reserve, so if we, and how much more did you say was it?
Right now, that bid process right there is 82,315.
I mean, that, we should be okay with that, if we have to go to that.
I mean, that,
I mean, we're gonna have
that's
to
an
do it.
option, the ARP fund is designated right now, so also an option.
Right, so either way though, we're gonna have to get this generator. I think we've been talking about the generator for several years that I've been here. Then I make a motion that, with budget amendment to purchase the generator for 82,315.
I will second that motion. Is there any further discussion? And all those in favor? Motion carries.
Now, did we say which? No, did we say which, I guess where that money's gonna be pulled from?
No, I didn't specify that, that's something we can get to when we get to.
That takes us to the 10th item on our agenda this evening, is our project updates, and unfortunately our county manager is not here this evening to really give us any updates. I know we do have a ribbon cutting ceremony coming up for the Middle Girls.
I don't have a definite date.
Okay. Sometime in October, I believe. I don't know if the board has any comments or questions about any other projects.
I could tell you that Ellerton Park, we have started on the bathroom pavilion project. We was out there today putting up walls for the bathroom. So hopefully within the next two months or so, we should be complete with that project.
Great. Okay, thank you.
We plan on piggybacking on that with, more trails and bridges on the south 50 acres.
Okay, great. Any other questions? None? I don't think there's a need for an executive session this evening.
No, I would like to make a motion to have an executive session to discuss personnel.
Okay. I'll second that motion. All those in favor? Motion carries. Motion carries. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second? All those in favor? Meeting adjourned.